A cheetah mother is watching her cubs play in open grass. 3 cubs, maybe 6 weeks old, small enough that a single swipe from the wrong animal ends everything. And right now, 200 meters away, a lion is watching them. The cheetah knows. She has been tracking that lion for 20 minutes. Running the calculation that every prey animal runs when something larger is nearby: distance, wind direction, how fast the cubs can move, whether she can get between them and it in time. The math is not good. A cheetah against a lion is not a fight. It is a brief and one-sided event, and her cubs are not fast enough to run yet. So she does something that makes no sense. She moves her cubs toward the humans, not away from the threat, toward a different one, toward the safari vehicle sitting 50 meters away, full of strange, upright creatures, with cameras and unfamiliar smells, and absolutely no natural place in her world. She settles her cubs directly beside it. The lion slows down, stops, sits, and eventually, without drama, turns and walks away. Now here is the question nobody in that vehicle thought to ask. Did she trust the humans, or did she simply choose the only option she had left? It turns out the answer is far stranger than either of those. To understand what the cheetah actually did, you need to understand what animals think we are. And the answer is not comfortable. There is a study published in the journal Science that measured how humans compare to other predators in terms of lethality. The finding was not flattering. Humans kill adult prey animals at rates up to 14 times higher than non-human predators. 14 times. Lions are considered apex predators. Wolves restructure entire ecosystems just by existing in them. Orcas are called killer whales and have completely earned it. Humans kill at 14 times their rate. Every large animal alive today is descended from animals that survived contact with us. The ones that weren't careful enough are not here anymore. Mammoths, giant sloths, cave bears, woolly rhinos, entire species that had survived multiple ice ages vanished within a few thousand years of humans arriving in their territory. So when a deer sees you walking toward it, when a crow watches you from a telephone wire, when a lion catches your scent from across an open plain, what their nervous system is registering is not a person. It's a data point in an evolutionary risk calculation their species has been running for hundreds of thousands of years. The calculation almost always produces the same answer: distance, now, which makes what the cheetah did genuinely puzzling. She already knew what we were, and she came closer anyway. Scientists call it flight initiation distance, FID. It's the specific point at which an animal decides to flee from something approaching it. And it is not a fixed number. It shifts constantly, based on one question the animal is always running in the background. Is fleeing right now worth the cost? Fleeing costs energy. It interrupts feeding, it can separate a mother from offspring, it can expose you to secondary predators you didn't know were watching. So animals don't flee at maximum distance every single time. They calculate, they assess, they wait to see which way the risk tips. And with humans, normally, the calculation produces the same answer very quickly. Not worth finding out. Go. But the cheetah was not running a normal calculation. She was facing 2 threats simultaneously, and that changes everything. Risk allocation theory is a framework in behavioral ecology that explains how animals make decisions when they are caught between multiple dangers at once. The core idea is brutally simple. When you are trapped between 2 threats, you do not choose the safe option. There is no safe option. You choose the one with the better survival probability. And this is where humans become mathematically interesting to a cheetah with a lion problem. A lion approaching her cubs has a clear and certain intent. The outcome is not ambiguous. The probability of the cubs surviving contact with that lion is functionally 0. A human in a safari vehicle is something completely different. Humans are wildly unpredictable. We might do nothing. We might drive away. We might, for reasons the cheetah's nervous system cannot model, actually create a buffer between her and the threat. She doesn't know which one is coming, and that uncertainty is precisely the point. From the outside, it almost looked as if she had turned the humans into her greatest defense. But what was actually happening inside her brain is stranger than it looks. A 50% chance of survival beats a 0% chance of survival. Every single time. Not because she trusted us, Not because she felt safe near us, but because her brain ran the numbers in real time, in the grass, with a lion watching her cubs, and the numbers pointed toward the vehicle. That is not trust. That is math dressed up to look like it. And the cheetah is not the only animal that has figured this out. Researchers studying moose populations in the Grand Teton ecosystem found something that seemed strange at first. Pregnant moose were consistently choosing to give birth closer to paved highways, not deeper in the wilderness, where you would expect a vulnerable animal to go. Near roads, near human activity. The reason was grizzly bears. Grizzly bears actively avoid areas with high human presence, so the moose were placing their most vulnerable offspring in the one zone where the thing they feared most was least likely to appear. It almost looked like the moose were using human infrastructure as a biological buffer between themselves and the predator that scared them most, protected by a species that terrified their predator even more than they did. The moose did not trust humans. They trusted that grizzlies were more afraid of us than they were, which is either impressive or deeply uncomfortable, depending on how you feel about being someone else's threat display. But here is where it gets even more specific. Because animals do not just evaluate humans as one category. They evaluate individual humans, and the precision they use to do it is genuinely remarkable. Researchers at the University of Washington ran an experiment with crows. They wore specific masks while doing things the crows found threatening, capturing them, handling them, disturbing their nests. Then later, those same researchers walked through the same areas without masks. Other researchers, who had never interacted with those specific birds, wore the identical masks. The crows remembered the masks. Precisely, they scolded and dive-bombed anyone wearing that specific face, regardless of which body was underneath it. Not for a few days, for years, and they taught their offspring to do the same. Young crows that had never personally encountered the original event were scolding a face they had only heard about from their parents, a grudge, passed down through generations, targeting a specific human expression. African elephants do something similar with language. Research showed they react differently to the voices of Maasai men, who have historically hunted them, than to the voices of agricultural communities nearby who present no threat. Same species, different dialects, completely different defensive response. These animals are not seeing a human, they are seeing a specific human, running a specific record, and making a very specific decision based on what that record says. When the cheetah settled her cubs beside that vehicle, she was not choosing humans in general. She was choosing that vehicle, that specific position. That specific buffer distance that her experience told her produced the outcome she needed. Now here is the part that disrupts how most people think about these moments. Sometimes after a crisis, an animal stays near the human who helped it, returns to them, seems to seek them out. And it looks, from the outside, exactly like gratitude. Here is what is actually happening. Extreme fear releases cortisol and adrenaline in enormous quantities. When the crisis ends, and the last thing the animal processed before the terror stopped was a specific human presence, the stress hormones drop. Oxytocin floods in, endorphins follow. The brain does what brains do. It maps cause and effect. That specific entity was present when I stopped being terrified. That entity is now registered as non-threat, possibly safe, possibly approach-worthy. The result looks like affection. Every nature documentary narrator describes it as gratitude. It produces behavior that makes entire comment sections write things like, "Animals know who is good." What it actually looks like, from a neurological standpoint, is an association. The animal has simply filed a very specific human presence under a very specific category. The category that means the terror ended. Whether that qualifies as trust is a question scientists still genuinely disagree about. One more thing worth saying before this ends. A significant percentage of the wildlife rescue videos that go viral online are staged. Researchers tracking this problem estimate the number as high as 70%. Animals deliberately trapped, animals intentionally stressed, proximity manufactured for a camera because the neurological response that follows is real and compelling even when the crisis that created it was not. Which means the genuine moments, the cheetah near the vehicle, the moose near the highway, the whale going still for the diver, are even more remarkable than they appear, because they are running on an unmanipulated calculation. No setup, no staging, just an animal's nervous system doing exactly what evolution built it to do. finding the best available option in an impossible situation, and landing, through pure statistical logic, on a human. So here is where all of this lands. Wild animals are not our friends. They do not see us as protectors. They do not seek us out as allies. They see us as the most dangerous thing in their world, 14 times deadlier than any natural predator. The species that made entire genera vanish from continents. And in the worst moment of their lives, when every other option has closed, something in their nervous system points toward us anyway. Not because they trust us, because we are unpredictable enough to be worth the risk. The cheetah never decided the humans were safe. She decided the lion was certain death. And between certain death and uncertain survival, her brain did what every brain does. It chose the unknown. And from the outside, sitting in that safari vehicle, watching her settle her cubs beside the wheel and turn to face the lion, it looked exactly like trust. Maybe that is what trust always was. Not certainty, just the decision that this particular unknown is worth staying for.